Hello, welcome, Cabbage here. In Nier Reincarnation, let's do the fashion check for the handout versions of Akeha. And I consider this the first real fashion check video. Previously, I made a couple about the New Year's characters, but those were special because they were for the New Year's. But what I really want to do is focus on one character per video, and then I want to split it up into handout versions in one video, and then Hatcher versions in another video. Because if I split it up like that, I have all of the handout versions, everybody does, but the Hatcher versions might not be able to get those right away. Like I don't have Bloody Griff or Bloody Lars, so I can't do, or I won't allow myself to do fashion check videos for the Hatcher versions of them. And then for Akeha here, I actually might do 3 videos. We have the one here where I will look at the handout versions, and then I want to do a Hatcher versions video where I look at her kimono, and then a third video where I look at her Hatcher versions that are not wearing kimono, so like Western or maybe Chinese influenced wear. But I don't have all of the Hatcher versions of Akeha either. I still don't have the white Automata 2 or the winter, the Christmas version, so I don't know, it might be a while before I make that video, or I just might make it without those characters. But yeah, let's start with 2-star Akeha. It's maybe the most famous one of her. I have some problems with this, and also the Dark Memory version. Maybe that's not going to make me very popular, but I'm kind of a kimono purist. I think if you saw my videos, especially about New Year's, Noel, and Gale, you know that I know my stuff about the kimono. And I can point out like where something is inaccurate or untraditional, or maybe like structurally weird. So let's look at the 2-star and the Dark Memory version of Akeha first. But yeah, she is wearing the black portion. That is a black kimono. That's pretty typical in as far as like the structure of it. However, most kimono, or pretty much all kimono, that at least the living people wear, it's left crossed over right, but we can see the opening of her leg on the left. So that is already not accurate with how kimono typically closes. But we can see that it's a solid black. I said in the previous video where we looked at New Year's Gale that a black kimono is more formal, especially if it has like the family crests on the shoulders or on the sleeves or on the back. But they generally have some kind of pattern at the bottom, like at the hem of the skirt or the bottom of the sleeves. So just a solid black is kind of unusual. And then long sleeves as well, which you usually see with more colorful, more patterned kimono that you see on younger women. But let's zoom in here. We can look more closely at the structure. So we can see that she's wearing the white part, and this looks like a full-on kimono. It doesn't look like an undergown, which you would typically wear with a kimono. Yeah, we can see sort of like in her back, she's not wearing like a lining under kimono there. So she's kind of wearing the white one, sort of like a yukata, which is a summer kimono, which you don't wear with an under layer. But it looks thicker fabric, so it looks like a real kimono, but worn on the skin, that is not typical. And then there's the black one, which is worn over that. And it's very, very open. We can see that we have a lot of her shoulders showing. And then the black one is also worn very low, so that it's coming almost down to the elbows. And like, if we look at the bottom half, we can see that there's no like white showing. So it really looks like the white kimono part is only the top half of her body, which is not an accurate kimono. But if we do look in the sleeves, we can see that white in there. So we can see that the actual sleeves are there for the white kimono. But yeah, again, looking at the bottom, we can kind of see like in between the opening there. We can see in the opening there's no white in there. So like the black kimono, that's structurally correct, but the white one is like a, I don't know, just a half of a kimono, which was similar to New Year Noel. Alright, and then we're going to look at from the back and above and all of them to see how big the opening is, especially in the back of the neck. Very, very open here. very untraditional. I've never seen anyone in the history of Japan wear it this open. But it is a very striking look. Although it's not accurate, it is very good looking, I think. I think she looks cool like this. Okay, and then we can look at some of her accessories. We can see kind of like dangly earrings here, and we can look at her hands. Looking at her hands in all of her different versions is interesting because she'll have different nails or different gloves. We can see kind of pointed nails and then red gloves. Very striking. And then she's holding a pipe, very traditional pipe, smoking pipe. Very, very few people use these days. Alright, and then we can look at the obi, which is tied around the middle. This is actually kind of shockingly sloppy. And like the fabric, it doesn't look very luxurious either, compared to either the black or the white kimono that she is wearing. But if we look at the back, we can see that's more kind of a traditional way to tie the obi. So that's kind of weird and incongruous with the front. That looks just like a plain old like rope tied around her middle. Okay, let's zoom out. Let's see if we can see her footwear. And looks like she's wearing pointed heels with a very low vamp. So you might be able to even see the spaces between her toes. That's not a traditional, of course, thing to wear with a kimono, but adds to the sexiness of the look. And then we can see kind of her family crest on the back of the obi. That's kind of unusual to have it on the obi there. Usually much more common to have it on the, again, the shoulders or the sleeves or the back of the formal kimono. But I saw some discussion on Twitter, actually. People were trying to figure out, like, what is that flower or what is that plant? It doesn't seem to be like a family seal that exists now. It might be something original made for the game. Alright, but let's have a look at an animation. And then on her side, we can see two swords, which she doesn't use as we use her in battle. But that's kind of a typical setup for, you know, sword users. But one regular length sword, and then one short sword. And then when you commit seppuku, what is it, the suicide, you use that shorter blade to cut your abdomen. And then we can see in her hair, she has a, kind of looks like a dagger even, just kind of stuck into the bun of her hair. And yeah, that's another fun detail that's different of all of the versions, is different kind of hair pins. Okay, that'll do it for 2-star. Kind of one of the more iconic looks of the game, but yeah, kind of inaccurate in some ways. Okay, next let's look at the Dark Memory version of her. I don't love this stage to look at characters in this kind of fashion check because everything kind of takes on a blue tone. And then the lighting, we can see the shadow on the ground there. It's only coming from one side. I like some other stages because there's lighting come from all sides. I don't need to like move the character around. But like the snow thing, that was not working for this costume because it's all white. But yeah, here we can see this is kind of more traditional with how she's wearing it. She has the one that's very kind of falling off her shoulders, and then she has the one that's sort of hanging on the shoulders, and then she has the inner. So that's almost like a like that under kimono, but it still has a pattern on it, which is unusual, I think, for an under kimono. So she might actually be wearing like two regular kimonos on top of each other. Kind of strange. But this is solid white. This could be a very traditional wedding kimono. You don't necessarily need to wear white. You could wear some kind of other light color like pink or blue or something. Even if you're wearing that very traditional like big hat. But for the much more traditional weddings, you could wear this white. And then it's got like a pattern with cranes, maybe some chrysanthemum flowers. And then in the back we see this big ornamental like tie that is actually a different fabric from the obi, which is tied around the middle. That's an extra piece of fabric. That's not very typical either. But the obi, this is pretty straightforward. It's got a more traditional like rope tie around the middle. And then we can look at the back from above. We can see closer to a more traditional amount of back of neck shown. But like this amount, this would be like how much a geisha would show with her kimono, which is supposed to be more erotic. This is not how people wear their kimono day to day in the back. And then we have kind of the same problems structurally, where if we look at the bottom half of her, it's not crossed, or like the incorrect leg is showing. And then also, there's parts of the top half of her that don't connect to anything in the bottom half, so couldn't really call this technically a true, accurate kimono. But we can see the hair ornaments and the earrings there. They have kind of like tassels, the ties there with the flowers. That's very cool. And then we can look at her hands again. Kind of a very dark burgundy or red, again with the pointed nails. And then with her obi, you know, we have that kind of black and red sort of ribbon or sash kind of tucked into the top there. And then we have some black sticking out the bottom. That should not be sticking out the bottom there. That does not look neat. Okay, and then very traditional footwear, which actually I find kind of erotic. But yeah, it's the kind of the structured sock, which attaches in the back with tabs, and then kind of the thong sandal with the wedge heel in the back. So that's pretty standard. All right, let's see if we can get a pose on her. That must be from her character skill. And then no like additional swords on her side. No additional weapons like we saw with the 2-star version. But yeah, looks great. Not structurally accurate, but most people wouldn't recognize that anyway. Okay, next let's look at one of my favorite kimono of Akeha, and that's because this is very traditional. This is the 3-star version, which was a event handout. But here, she is probably wearing a formal kimono, which is black, but has that kind of pattern around the hem of the skirt. And then, although we can't see the sleeves, probably on the bottom of the sleeves as well. And then she is wearing a coat over the kimono, so we can't see the seals, the family seals, which might appear on the shoulder, sleeves, or back, but we can assume that it's there, because that would truly make it a formal kimono. And then closed very normally at the chest. This is how a kimono is going to look day to day, if you're wearing it these days. And then obi around the middle, that's a traditional obi. The kind of the red knotted tie around the middle, that's kind of untraditional because it's very drapey. It hangs off a lot in the center there. And then this made me excited. We haven't seen this in any of the previous ones, but below the obi, the sash there, we can see a real faint line, like a fold, across the tummy there. I don't know if people can see it. I'm trying to mess with the brightness and contrast to sort of make it more visible, but still can't really see it. But again, kimono are generally the same length, and so, like, depending on your height, you will tuck it under in order to get the right length, so it hits your ankles at the bottom. So good detail there. And let's see if we can see the footwear. Not really. Okay, we can kind of see it there if that iPhone bar would get out of the way. But this is also a very typical sock, which attaches in the back, and then the thong with the wedge heel. All right, we can look closer at the coat, and then she's wearing kind of a just kind of a shawl off her shoulders. That's a good look for when it's cooler out. That actually started as a men's coat, but some, however many hundreds of years ago, it became the fashion for women in kimono to wear the men's coat over it, and then it became a regular thing. And then we can see in the back, that's pretty darn closed. At the neck, that's also typical of what you would see these days wearing it. And then no earrings that I can see, and then kind of like nude hands, or nails rather. So no gloves, no pointy nails. And I don't know if I showed it already, but in her hair, that hair ornament, that's actually a typical hair ornament. That's not a knife or a dagger repurposed as a hair ornament. Alright, that'll do it for this version of Akeha. I love the expression on her face. Okay, next let's look at another Handout 3-star Akeha. This is also one of my favorites. This is kind of like, there's a lot of elements of archery in this costume. But first of all, we can see kind of a breastplate, kind of literally there. Women that do the archery, Kyudo, they will wear that because their bust might get in the way of the string from the bow. So you wear that, it just kind of rebounds, ricochets off of that. And then there's the obi tied below that. That's kind of unusual, kind of ornamental, lots of hanging off drapey things, tassels, and extra sashes there. And then we can see how it's attached in the back with rope. And then another thing that makes me think this is for archery is the sleeves. We don't have the big flapping, hanging off sleeves. Instead, we have these gauntlets and then kind of more normal sleeves. And if you look through the history of kimono, sleeves, they've gone through different sizes and shapes. And yeah, some people, they will have kimono with just this very sort of more form-fitting sleeve. But on the hands, we can see kind of like gloves with the cut-off fingers, and then gauntlets on top of that. And looking at the back, we can see the obi tied in the back. That's interesting. That's almost like how a man ties his obi. It looks more like an actual knot than just kind of like a perfect square, like on a typical women's obi knot. And then in the back, we can see like one arm is black and one arm is white. Here's another thing where the structure is not holding up. Because you have that black sleeve and it's kind of coming off the left sleeve, but like where's the bottom half of the black part of the kimono? So yeah, that's kind of a miss there. And actually, it's not uncommon for a kimono to be one color on one side and one color on another, and then you just, sew the seams together so that they fit. You didn't have to do it, so it's kind of coming off one shoulder. So yeah, that's kind of a miss on the designer's part. But we see kind of again, a repurposed knife stuck through the bun of the hair. No earrings here either. And then on the hands, on the nails, we see kind of like black polish, and then a rounded nail rather than a pointed nail. So yeah, there are the details different in every version. And then another short sword on the side. And then the footwear and the legs, she's got some thigh-high stockings. And it looks like another heel with like a strap around the ankle, but more kind of a rounded, sort of a booty toe, rather than the very pointy high heel that we saw from before. Okay, last version. This is the Hatcher 3-star, available from launch. This is very like a ninja costume, actually. You could put a cowl on her head, and she would fit in with all of the other ninjas. It would be pretty cool, actually, to see a version of her, or an option of her with that. But we have like the sleeveless garment there, and then we have the I guess they're trousers, pants. But what happens is that the pants, they attach from the front to the back, and then there are belts there, which is why the sides there are not there. Okay, but we can look at the front. It's very tied, very close in the front. That's what you usually want for martial arts. This has the family seals on the near the shoulders, which is not typical. And then obi, that is very, very casual there. Again, looks like just rope tied around the middle. And we can see a sword there. That is a straight sword, which is more what ninjas would use. Samurai would use more of a kind of a curved sword. That's kind of a cool touch. And then on the arms we see gauntlets. And then let's see if we can look at the palm of the hand. Yes, okay. We can see around the middle finger there's like a little piece of cloth, a little string of cloth there. I talked about this with a Nier's 063Y, but that is like a covering for the back of the hand, and then around the forearm, so that you have some kind of a thing to put the gauntlet onto. So like the gauntlets, you know, not chafing your skin. And kind of comes up above the elbow as well. And then this detail in the back with the obi, this kind of confuses me, because usually in the back with the obi you have the knot, and then below that you have the extra fabric kind of sticking out. This kind of looks like it has the fabric sticking out the bottom, but it's not really coming from anywhere. And then this is also something that I noticed about Nier Noel's kimono, where like the structure of the top and the bottom didn't really match. But like we see this kind of like middle part coming down the front. Like what is that attached to? Is it attached to like the left side of her garment when it's undone? So yeah, that's kind of confusing there. It looks cool, but maybe structurally it's iffy. And then also the kind of the trousers that attach from the front and the back, that would typically be tied over the obi. This is under the obi here, so that's also kind of, I don't know. Alright, but footwear here, we see some open toe, might be kind of boots or booties, and then sort of like a shin guard, kind of like the gauntlets on her arms. And then another repurposed knife in her hair. And earrings, I don't see any earrings. Yeah, that doesn't look like it. And then let's check her hands and nails. Looks like red pointy nails. Okay, that will do it for the fashion check for the Handout versions of Akeha. I really enjoy doing these, but they do take a lot of time to do. Alright, next we'll do a Hatcher kimono for her. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again. Take care.